Welcome to Be Well with Dr. Michelle Greenwell, and the podcast that explores wellness from the inside out. And I'm your host, Michelle Greenwell, and today I'm honored to be joined by Ann-Marie Boudreau. Hello, Ann-Marie.
Hi, Michelle. Nice to be here with you.
And Ann-Marie is an ARCT. Do you want to say what that means?
Concert Performance Associateship in Piano from the Royal Conservatory of Music.
Really short, but beautiful. All right. She's also a sound doula, a concert pianist, a multi-instrumentalist, improvisational vocalist, and a Reiki master. Ann-Marie brings decades of experience in teaching, performing, and using sound for healing. And today, what we're going to be doing is diving into a deep conversation on the power of sound, and we're looking at the resonance within how sound shapes health. So this is the first of a trilogy. So we're going to dive in by getting to that first little bit. Why is sound interesting for health? And in what way might you be able to think differently about your health plan, your wellness journey? But before we get started, we want you to have a healing experience as you listen to this podcast, because we set it up that way. And so, Ann-Marie, what tea have you brought today for this conversation?
My tea is reminiscent of my time in India, where I fell in love with chai tea. So my tea today is chai, and it has the wonderful spices of cardamom and cinnamon mixed in with it.
Beautiful.
So I'm taking a sip right now.
Nice, deep, rich, grounding, beautiful. And I chose kind of similar, although it's in an orange pekoe way. So today I'm bringing in from the Cape Breton Tea Company, Fit as a Fiddle, and this is from the Natalie McMaster set. I thought it was fitting, if we're going to talk about sound, we should have the closest tea that we can get to sound, and that are the 3 teas from Natalie's set. So Fit as a Fiddle is bringing in the orange pekoe tea, the black tea, which calms the nerves but opens the mind. And with that, it also has some herbs and flower petals that go with it. So I wanted to highlight, first of all, the intention on the package. So it brings everybody to the same space. Heart-centered living flourishes when opening to your true passions in life. And as we start talking about how sound shapes health today, one of the passions everybody has is to live with wellness and to be able to live a long and healthy life. And so this is a way for us to bring that into the conversation and how the sound is going to support doing that. I wanted to highlight 2 ingredients, apple and hibiscus. And people will often comment, I do have those in several blends, and there's a reason. And that apple is a way for bringing in the nutrients and the sustenance, something that really picks you up and lifts you. And then that apple a day does mean something. Apple a day is wellness. There's so much involved in apple. So when you combine apple with hibiscus, hibiscus gives you the opportunity to open to heal and to be present and aware of what is potential for you in transformation. So as you're listening to the podcast today, and we bring some new ideas in, things you may have never heard of before, or things you may have heard, but you didn't really know how that related to you, we want you to be open to exploration, the curiosity to dive in and see what this is going to mean for you. And the tea is a way for us to get us there. So in this tea, we're looking at awakening the senses. And this is going to get us started. So bringing that tea up close, I can imagine you with your Indian
Cheers.
What that smell is that comes to you first. That is bypassing the nervous system, going right into the limbic system and connecting to the motor system. And this is a place where change can happen. And what we'd like you to do is you're sitting with that cup of tea. And if you didn't make a cup of tea, you can grab some water and infuse the same intention into that water that we've brought to the table for you today. After we've engaged the senses, then I'd like you to just think about sound. So you might want to hum a note where you are. You might want to chant a tone. You might have had music playing in the background before you started listening to the podcast. And let a musical sound resonate into the space. Just invite it in. and then feel it mix with the tea. All right, I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but
Mm.
we
Mm.
infuse all of Natalie's tea with Natalie's music. So that intention is so vibrant through these three tea blends. So as you're sipping, notice how the flavors and the warmth spreads through your body. And imagine the vitality of the tea resonating and resonate in every cell, but going deeper into the smaller molecules. And then just capturing all that is possible for those cells to grow and thrive. And then after you're finishing sipping away, spend a moment in silence. You could be humming while you're listening to this podcast. We won't be able to hear you, but we'll be thrilled that you're doing it. And then anchor that energy of sound, tea, and presence together. All right, so I'm going to sip on mine now.
Mm.
Oh, that orange pico in there, it's just so beautiful.
Mm.
All right. So this isn't just about drinking tea. This is aligning your senses, your energy, and your spirit. And each sip becomes a reminder of the resonance that is within, preparing us for this rich conversation about sound. So let's get started. We're going to set the stage for why sound even matters. You know, you can go about your day, put the radio on, you can talk to people, that's sound. You can have birds, you can have the sound of water outside. Why does sound make a difference? And so, Ann-Marie, do you want to lay the stage for the importance of sound in our lives?
The importance of sound is that it actually has a physical effect on the body. It actually affects us on a cellular level. So what does affect us very deeply, even sounds that are on the periphery of our world, our sound environment, we could say, also affects us. If you've got traffic going on behind you and other things, there may be white noise that you're blocking out. So that means you're not even a part of you're not able to expand into that full sound environment for yourself. So what we really want to do is bring awareness to our everyday and to our sound environment because that does affect us very deeply on a physical level. And I know we're going to talk more further about that as well.
Mm-hmm. And so we have the physical piece, which most people are familiar with, but sound affects our thoughts, and it also affects how we feel. We know that because we can put on that love song that takes us back to a date or an experience that we had with family members, or the time that you were feeling sad and you grabbed that piece of music that could lift you up. We all dive into that. So on one level, we already have that kind of knowledge, but as we're talking today, how is it that we can go deeper with that sound?
What I do with a lot of my work is go into journey. And the journeys in music are what take us more deeply into ourselves. And that starts to connect us more quietly with our inner intuition, our inner guides, those places that we often don't stay quiet enough to sink into. So sound and journeying with music can take you deeply into those places. And I really feel that those are where the nuggets of gold are that each of us can mine for ourselves and see what we want to bring out into the world. Because everyone has golden nuggets inside, but we are so busy with our surface world, our daily world, that we often don't take the time to go quiet, to move more deeply within, and to find out what connections and what intuitions and what inspirations are there, right there within us. We often don't need the encouragement from the outer world. We actually have a treasure chest within us. It's just about us mining that and then bringing it out into the world in whichever way, shape, or form feels right for us to do.
And so for those people that they're carrying a lot of stress in their day, and um, they're thinking about they need to calm their nervous system. So if they sit quietly and do some deep breathing, that can be helpful to a certain level. How does adding sound to that change how the nervous system is functioning?
That actually starts to calm it, depending, of course, on the music that you're listening to. as well. It's got to be music that you find calming as well. So it tends to help the brain waves sort of slip sideways. You move out of that environment that you're in, and it can take you to an altered state, slightly altered state, especially when it's music that is deeply relaxing for yourself. So that is a way that it can take us on to a journey just by that addition of music, putting it on for yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now one of the topics that I guess some people may have dabbled in just a little bit is the somatics. And they
Hmm.
may have heard of it, they may have seen sand vibrating to see the shapes, if they've ever seen any of those videos. Can you tell us what somatics is and then how that relates to the human body?
Okay. So, if we think of it this way, cymatics is based on the science of sound made visible in our world. So, there is an impact of sound, and the study of cymatics goes way back several centuries. And there's lots of historical content that I'm sure we'll talk about later. But there's a basic physics principle. That says when sound encounters a physical membrane, a pattern of energy is actually imprinted on the membrane. And these periodic sound encounters or vibrations create beautiful geometric patterns of the sound. And moving more deeply into it, what they found is that we are at least 70% liquid crystalline water. Our body is made up of liquid. And one of the most malleable and influenceable materials in the world, the planet, is water. And it shifts really, really quickly and very easily when sound is applied. So there's a lot of experiments in cymatics that have been done on water because they know that the body is mostly water, crystalline water. So that actually has a visceral effect on our bodies and starts to shift and change us from the inside out.
Wow. So if people are thinking about one, they've got the sipping on the water, but
Mhm.
two, they've got that water that's sitting in the fascia and sitting in the muscle itself or coming through the lymphatic system. So what you're saying is as that sound hits the body, those frequencies are picked up by the water within all that tissue, and then the transformation is just starts to happen.
Yes, yes. And what ends up happening is it's sort of like a domino effect. The sound, certainly when it's live sound, which is different from recorded, we can talk about that later too. But usually when it is live sound, the sound starts to affect the cells that are closest to the surface, and eventually they move on to other cells and they touch other cells until it spreads like the domino effect through the body. So it gains momentum and moves through the body. And there is a lot of information about different instruments and how they actually affect it. And I know that today, one of course, the strongest sound healing instruments that we know of is crystal sound, and that is the crystal singing bowls as well
Mm,
because they are incredibly powerful. And so
mhm.
when you look around today, there are so many people who are actually hosting sound baths, and you'll see a whole lot of crystal bowls and gongs, etc., in the circles when you go to experience that. And because they vibrate at such a high millivolts, it starts to affect you very deeply on a cellular level.
Wow. Wow.
I was
Now,
fortunate enough years ago to go to one of my friends' his crystal bowl experience. David Hickey, he does crystal sound journey, and so he had invited a few people up on stage and said, "Here, come and lay on stage with all of his 30 bowls and 18 pace gongs." And so there I was on the stage, soaking it all in for 3 hours, and I felt like my whole body had been shifted and transformed because I was buzzing. I was completely buzzing when I came out of there. So I know there was a huge transformational shift for me at that time.
mhm, mhm. And I met David Hickey teaching a Touch for Health workshop actually in Banff, and they said, you have to meet this guy. And I was supposed to head home, and it was it was a 2.5 hour drive, and so I said, okay, well, I rearranged everything, stayed an extra night, the whole 9 yards. I had no idea what to expect, and I sat on a chair, and everyone else is lying on the floor on mats and pillows and blankets, and then David started playing. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. I was promptly sound asleep on the chair. I don't know how I didn't fall off. But
You did well not falling off.
but I was so smitten, and I've worked with David on several occasions, and sound baths, just for people that have never heard. It's just so beautiful to be able to just immerse yourself into all the layers and the frequencies, and the mind can't hold on to anything in that state. It just lets go, and those monkey thoughts don't have to stay. They can disappear.
Well, it's deeply trance-inducing as well. And so when you start to work with long tones, which is what these bowls are, or repetitive rhythms as well, you start to move into trance states. And when you do that, you can't hold on to sort of your daily thoughts. The mind automatically starts to slip sideways. And that is when in that state, that's when the deeper healings, the deeper connections start to happen for people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I was going to dive into the next part, which is why it sounds so critical for personal health. But I think we've already dove in there with a couple of ideas. So I'm going to bring a couple of ideas we kind of thought about, which was conscious listening versus passive hearing. And you did talk a little bit about that background noise that you block out, or the white noise.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk a little bit about those two different pieces of hearing.
Well, there's a way that we can hear with the body, and there's a way that we just hear with the ears. And then there's a way that we can hear holistically, mind, body, with the ears, with our whole physical being. So there's a holistic way, and then there's a very specific, pointed when you're paying attention to something, you're working, you're in a conversation, you're listening to the meetings going on, the voices talking, or you're listening to the radio. There's a very focused attention. And so when we move into the area of sound healing, what you want to do is move them out of that logistical mindset and more into that creative side of ourselves, where we can start to slip sideways, and where we can actually start to mine those golden embers within ourselves, that little treasure chest that helps us to move into that. But there's also the fact that cymatics really helps us to understand the depth to which sound, and I'm talking about live sound here, not recorded sound, but how live sound can actually move into us on a cellular level, which we spoke about a little bit. And when I think it was Hans Jenny talked about each of the tissues and the organs of the body having their own frequencies. So our body is playing its own melody as well, if you think of the organs as being different musical instruments in an orchestra. And your body is a symphony and playing all of these different frequencies and vibrations at the same time. So when you're taking sound in, it's actually nourishing for the body as well, because you are basically vibration. We are vibration, physical vibration in the world.
Wow. Okay, so now we can have, and you've touched on a little bit, but we can have the sounds where you put a really good piece of music on that you enjoy, and a singer that you enjoy. But there's a difference between, and I guess this is where the recorded music piece comes in, and the live music, but also recorded music that's specifically done for healing. So can you just talk about how intentionally we can take that sound and we can create different occurrences for the body, like clarity or um, releasing and relaxing in the tissue. Can you just talk a little on that?
Well, you used a very important word, intention. And truly, if we really want to go deeper within us, we really need to be setting intentions for ourselves. And so when you're focusing your mind on, I want to focus on sound for healing, for the greater benefit of me, and we move into a place of, say, setting up the room, having it be quiet, putting on our favorite music, and then lying down and creating that space to move into those deeper, quiet places. When we set intention, that goes through very, very deeply into the body and into our mind, into our hearts, and tends to help us. It helps to enrich and add extra layers on of information about the intention as well. A lot of times when I'm working with clients as a sound therapist, I would work with them and talk for a while to find out what's happening in your life, what's going on, what's upsetting you, what's disturbing you. And once I have a sense of where they are, I'll create music to join them where they are in that moment. And then I find out, of course, where they want to be or where they want to go. And so I create a musical link to a second step in the journey, and that is music of hope, of love, or compassion, whichever it is that they've set. So they will go into the journey knowing that I'll meet them where they are in whatever state they are. And sometimes we're talking about deep grief because there's a lot of fear about even allowing ourselves to feel grief. Sometimes it feels like we'll get swept away by the tide and we'll never come back. So it's maybe safer to work with someone who can actually help bring us back. So a lot of people would come who had deep grief, and I would move them in from that place into a place of lullabies, of compassion, of love, of caring. And so that journey was created because of the intentions and the focus that they're bringing to the session. And so after a session, I would sit and talk with them about, okay, what did you feel? What sensations came up for you? Were there memories? Were there thoughts? What was it that came forward? And we'll talk about that for a while and really help to ground it within themselves. And then the next important piece is always to say, well, how will you bring this into your daily world outside of this therapeutic setting? Because a lot of times we go in, we have these great experiences, but we don't bring them into our real lives, our daily lives. And so we lose that connection with it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that's
a
just a sample of what it is that I do with sound with clients.
I think, well, you said two very valuable things amongst all the other pieces, but the intention part, which is so many people like, especially when they're journaling, it's great to journal, but for a lot of people, they'll journal about a situation and they'll stay within the situation. And that intentional piece is so important. What do you want out of it? How do you want to move to the next place? And now that you've dumped all of that stuff about that situation, what does it mean to you? Where are you going to go? And what you're saying is, with the sound, it's equally important to, yes, you can be embodied here, but where are you going to take yourself? How are you going to transform yourself through that journey? Which is really important. And then the second part is, as people are listening, you have to change your day. So you can't just continue to be, plugging along with the to-do list, trying to get everything ticked off for the day that you managed to accomplish things, but to actually change the quality of what you're doing and what is the outcome of the day that you want. Not, I got 100 things off my to-do list, but today I was creative. Today I empowered myself with sound for 3/4 of my day, and I was able to really stay present, as an example. So those pieces of being able to bring it into your world and then hold on to it, but in a way that's transforming.
Exactly. You want to almost sort of anchor that piece within yourself so that it stays. and that
Hmm.
you, and that starts to feed your day. It informs you through your day, because how you might have reacted if you hadn't taken that time for yourself may be more harsh than had you taken time for you and go, oh, okay, they're in pain too. Maybe I won't react so harshly when I respond, you know. So those are
Hmm.
some differences that can come up, that but subtle, but very, very important. It all links back to self-care. And a lot of times within our very busy and rushed societies today, there isn't time for the self. There isn't time for the self-care that we would have had
Hmm.
before in quieter times. So it is important, like you say, to carve out that little bit of time that is yours. And even if it's just a 5 minute sip with a cup of tea and a good piece of music, and go, oh, I've taken this time for me because we're worth it. It's valuable, and it will affect how we then move out into the world and how we interact with the world around us.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I hope everybody heard that piece of how you respond and how you think of things, because when we're out of balance and we don't have that harmony going on in the body, we do react differently. We do have judgment pieces that might not otherwise have been there, and we do often respond in a way that's trying to bring people either to us or push them away, rather than in a harmonious kind of collaborative approach.
Mhm.
Um,
And it
and
comes
just
back to that piece around self-care. It really,
mhm,
truly is.
yeah.
And we don't do that enough in our regular days. And you know, me, myself, and I need to do it more myself.
Well, and that's where I enjoy the way that my schedule is set up, because I specifically set it up so that I'm weaving in and out of that all week long, which means that as I go about some of the tasks that are more mundane and just have to get done, and emails that need to be checked, but I have woven these opportunities to bring balance and harmony back in so that I have exactly what you're describing. I have the self-care present and available. And,
Hmm. Hmm.
it's a completely different day.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you do that for yourself. Because I know you serve so many in your busy times as well.
Hmm.
And for myself, what being a musician, I will come to a place in my day where it's, I have to go play an instrument now. And so when I do, that takes me more deeply into that quiet place for myself. The mind settles, I start to slip sideways, and I can feel myself coming forward. My own heart opens up more. I relax physically, and my body relaxes, and I can be more present in my
Hmm.
life when others step into it, and
Hmm.
be more attentive and be more aware.
Hmm. Hmm. So many wonderful things to think about. You're just the even the layers of conversation that we're coming around with this. Okay, we've dabbled into where we're going to head next. So this is the practical application and personal health. So how listeners can start to bring sound in a practical way to help support their health. What are some of the initial ways that you like to introduce people to sound?
Well, one of my favorite ways is through the voice.
Hmm.
And that is because, hands down, the voice is the strongest healing tool that each individual has on this planet. So, freeing up the voice is freeing up our personal energy and expanding and enriching our bodies from the inside out on a cellular level. So the voice is usually where I start. And of course, a lot of people start to think of the voice and the entertainment aspect. They're going to sing a song for someone else, or they want to sing a song because they like what it sounds like. But how I work with voice is very different. Um, like to start with vocal play, and that is to just create sounds, playful sounds like a kid would do. You know, we become so serious in our adult lives, so intense that we forget how to play. hang out in a room with a bunch of little kids zipping around and doing and screaming and yelling and singing. That is such a free energy. And we've lost so much of our connection with that. So when we start to play vocally, um, that starts to free up that wonderful energy, and it automatically releases and loosens the stress as well that you've been holding as a responsible adult in your world for so long in your day.
Right.
So I really love just vocal play and not trying to sing or sound like somebody else. We're just sounding and playing together. And what we're doing is consciously raising our energy. So I would usually start a circle and say, okay, on a 1 to 10 scale, where is your energy sitting right now? And you can see, like, my classes, the students would be like, 3, 2, 4, very
Mm-hmm.
low. And then I'd get them standing up and we'd move into this vocal play. And after about 15 minutes, I'd say, okay, where are you sitting? And they're like, 8, 10, 12. It's shifted right up. It's because they're activating their own life force through that
Mm-hmm.
use of the voice. And sadly, too many people have been closed down very, very early in their lives. And that is what I find really, really sad. When I've moved around the circle and spoken with people in my classes, so many have stories about having been shut down. Oh, you can't sing, move to the back of the choir, just mouth the words, don't say anything, be quiet. When we were younger, it was like, kids should be seen but not heard. We've
Mm-hmm.
all had these kinds of negative messages throughout our lives. And so that inhibits and closes down the voice. And so the natural voice is very energizing when you're totally in your body, you're connected to it. It starts to bring a whole vibrancy into your body.
Mm-hmm.
And that to see someone at the end of those classes start to sparkle, that's one of my favorite things to see
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
witness.
And I think, we intuitively do it. We sing in the shower. It's
Yes.
like we're by ourselves. The door's
Mhm.
closed. Some people
Oh,
still might
yes.
hear you, right? And you get in the car, and who sings in the car and crank up the music. You were going to say something too about the shower.
Well, yes, exactly. That's one of the things that I do because I have people from all walks of life that will come to the workshops. They're like, I can't sing in the house. I can't sing in there. I don't want to say they're too shy to do it there. So, again, the shower is a great place. The car is a great place. Put on your favorite song and sing along with it because you are raising your energy and your vibrancy by doing that. And make it playful, make it fun. Don't try to sound perfect. Don't try to sound like somebody else. Just letting your own sound come forth because we all, like a thumbprint, we all have unique sounds to our voices. And I love the uniqueness of all the different voices of people that I've worked with.
And
Yeah.
isn't that interesting as you said that? Because so many people would think, how could that possibly be? But I do know I was working on something this week, and I was um, playing with my voice and playing with the resonance of the breath and making all kinds of interesting sounds.
Mhm.
And that you could feel when they felt really good when you let it all go and just dove into it. And then when you kind of pulled back a little bit and you could feel the hesitancy in there, which then
Mhm.
becomes a great way to learn about other areas of your life where that hesitancy may show up and how you can sense it, and then
Mhm.
how that understanding of your voice can feed into that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I
Mm-hmm.
agree. Because there are so many moments that stop us and shut us down in life, as I
Mm-hmm.
was saying previously. So finding ways to even just take a breath through it. I constantly do that. I have a friend who is a vocalist. He goes, I'm going to take an Anne-Marie breath now. And I was like, what? I didn't know I had one. But it's true. I will always do let's all take a breath together. Breathing in, sighing on the way out. He goes, that's it. That's an Anne-Marie breath.
Mm-hmm.
Ah. So if we can even allow ourselves that, it releases tension immediately. And then we can move into, okay, what do I need to say? What do I need to do next, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you just taking those moments are really important.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one woman came to me and said, I need to do a lot of public speaking and I'm terrible at it. And I start getting fidgety. And we had gone through my vocal play workshop. And so there are all kinds of fun techniques in there. And so we talked about her going into the bathroom and warming up and doing her her playfulness as well and shaking it out of her body. And then she would go and speak. And I remember her coming back and saying, it worked. And she was so surprised. But it helped her shake off that physical stress that really gets tight in our body. We hold on so much. So to release that and release that stress from the body, we can then be present to go, okay, I need to deliver a certain message here. Let's get right into where we need to go and allow the voice to be that wonderful symphony of sound that expresses what you need to in the world. Our voice is our main communicator with the world. And so to have that free, to have it open, to be able to speak easily and well helps us communicate with that bigger world around us.
Mm-hmm.
And we, a lot of times are not heard because we stopper it down, we hold it back, we tighten ourselves up, and we don't allow that to come forward. Oh, I can't say that. I can't do that. Those
Mm-hmm.
moments that hit us. So, hmm, hi.
I'm thinking about those people who are doing presentations,
Hmm.
and maybe it's in front of an audience, maybe it's in a boardroom, maybe it's in a just on a meeting.
Hmm.
But the approach of before I go to the meeting, I need to grab a cup of coffee because I need to have that caffeine so I'm really alert.
Hmm.
Instead of thinking about bringing the resonance in that would open the mind, calm the system, but also provide you with the space to speak what you needed to speak. That's
Hmm.
a completely different way of approaching your self care for your daily activities.
Absolutely. I mean, our vocal cords are just, in the throat and they can be so stressed that we can actually hurt ourselves if we try to sound too much and there's too much stress in the throat.
Mm-hmm.
So, loosening that up, breathing, relaxing our physical body, that actually helps to loosen the vocal cords as well, so that we can speak more easily, so we can share and the sound comes out more resonantly as well.
I love what you just said there. It was so interesting because, yes, those vocal cords are linked to other parts of the body and
Mhm.
how much time we spend moving or locked in a position. So, same thing, you've been at your desk, you've been engrossed in a project or getting ready for that presentation, your body is super tight, and then those vocal cords are going to reflect that. So,
Mhm.
having that space, you could do movement, you could do sound, you could do sound and movement together, which I know from our movement to music program, it just magnifies so incredibly. So
Mhm.
for people to think about, there's just so much more that you can put in there
Mhm.
when you know how to add the sound, and then you just add the sound.
Yes. So you're not just thinking with your mind. You're actually coming into the body, you're sinking into the body, and you're living basically in a more holistic manner. And there's actually a story I'd like to tell and share
Mm-hmm.
share a little bit about an amazing percussionist that I had the privilege of hearing and meeting in at the University of Toronto when I was studying. Evelyn Glennie. She is a Scottish percussionist. She performs over 100 concerts worldwide each year and has composed over 200 new percussion compositions. She's the world's first full-time solo percussionist and pioneer figure in the music world, despite being profoundly deaf since she was 12.
Oh my.
So you might be wondering, how can a deaf person be a world-class percussionist? Good question. For her, the whole skin of the body is like a tight drum that feels vibrations when we allow ourselves to pay attention to it. And so Glennie actually experiences music through these vibrations, feeling the percussive sounds resonating deeply through different parts of her body. And she often performs barefoot, which she did the evening that I saw her, and says that she actually feels the sound more deeply through her feet. And her mission in life is actually to teach the world to listen. So she suggests that we work on developing the skill of listening more deeply in order to hear more deeply. And that's a skill that's fast disappearing in this growing world of white noise that's completely surrounding us. So she has the sensitivity to feel that vibration on a physical level, even though she doesn't have an oral sense. She can still feel that, and is quite amazing. There's quite a few videos of her online as well, if you wanted to check them out sometime. So we're fortunate that we have, if you're listening to this, you have an oral sense, but you can listen with more than your ears. You can listen with the whole body. And that's the difference between a recorded session and a live session, because we can actually play sound over the body. Say if we have an ocean drum, or if we have a buffalo drum or a didgeridoo, these are all instruments that are played over the body so that you have a visceral effect. So when I used to do sound journeys, I did those for about 20 years, or like David Hickey's group, you would go into a yoga studio, lay down with your blanket and your pillow, and I would have sounders as well as musicians working with me, and I would orchestrate these journeys to take people into deeply transformative spaces within themselves. But we would go around over the bodies and play the buffalo drums so that they could feel it through the whole body, the ocean drums through the whole body. We would sing to them. I would kneel down and sing next to them around their head, around their ears, and they would get that sort of live surround sound kind of experience, the tinkle of the bells, the didgeridoos. So that live experience really moves deeply into the body, just like we were talking about with the crystal bowls, that has a physical and visceral effect on us physically.
Wow. And I just know from the different sound baths that I've been lucky enough to be a part of, what never really occurred to me is, yes, you're hearing it, and yes, I was feeling it, but not thinking about so much how the skin is so involved in that piece. Because we're always thinking about, oh, I feel it on the inside. Oh, I feel the chi. I feel the breath. But we don't ever really think so much about the experience of the skin and what it's doing for us and what its awareness is. So thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. I know that it's so people are listening, but really to embody this, we should really do an example, something that people can take away and use daily. Do you have something that you could share?
Yes, actually, it was something to there's a few things actually. One of them is that if you are fortunate enough to have a buffalo drum, bring that out, but get a pair of earplugs. Put your earplugs in just as an experiment at home, and then play the drum over your heart. Face the drum towards yourself and play it. And see if you can sense more of a physical, visceral effect as you're playing that over the body. And then take the earplugs out and try it again and see what the difference is. Because a lot of times when we have the earplugs in, it blocks out a lot of the white noise that we typically have around us. And it really takes us into that internal journey and where we can be more aware of what is actually happening viscerally in the body when we are sounded over. So that's just a little experiment you can do for yourself if you want. But I think the most important thing is on a daily basis. We all have different sound environments within our home, at work, on the subway, on the way to work, or in the car. There are different sound environments affecting us daily. And I would, like Evelyn Glennie says, practice some deep listening. What is it that you're not really feeling good about in your sound environment? Is there like a dripping tap you have to turn off? Is there something, a window you have to close because the traffic's getting really noisy? Instead of sort of blocking out these white noises, adjust them. Adjust them for your own comfort.
Mm.
And then maybe it's like, okay, they're doing construction next door. Well, let's maybe find some music that just moves us into that. Or there have been times when I've been stuck in environments where there's just, beep, beep, and you're not going to get away from it. And so I'll start humming away a sound. Dee, 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 dee. You can come up with something as easily as that. But be aware of the sound environments you're in, and do you need to make any adjustments? And if you do, will that help? And if you can, it's like do that throughout your day so that you are more comfortable wherever it is that you are sitting or at whatever you are doing
Mm.
through your day
Mhm.
as well.
Mhm. I'm thinking about how sometimes when people sit in a room long enough and then they can finally hear the clock, and they didn't hear the
Yes.
clock for hours, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's so loud, but it took that long for all that background to disappear.
That's what I'm talking about. Exactly. It's because so many of us turn off our oral sense and just block it out as white noise. We become used to that. And that to me is blocking out a very important sense,
Mhm.
our ears, our hearing.
Mhm.
And that, is its own form of communication. And if you're bombarded with that all day long, what's it doing to your energy? What's it doing to, your ears to have to work harder to block the noise out? How is it affecting you on a visceral level as well, or an emotional level, because it's upsetting or disturbing? So making small adjustments through our day, depending upon which sound environment we are in, really can be such a wonderful help to helping to calm and keep us on a more even kilter through our
Mhm.
days. Of
Mhm.
course, having a tea with that is always a good thing
Always a good thing. And
when
you
a
find
need.
those herbs really do pick up the sound as well, pick up the frequency when we take the time. That's where the tea ritual becomes so important because you can make your cup of tea and just sip away. You haven't really engaged with it. You haven't
Hmm.
engaged with the water that's within the cup either.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
how
remember,
lovely. Go ahead.
mhm. And as well, if you add a little bit of intention onto that, you can, like you were saying earlier, what is your intention as you're drinking the tea? You
Hmm.
bring that into it. That adds a whole other layer of richness to your
Hmm.
world.
Hmm. Hmm. And for listeners who do a lot of meetings, that's the way I start every meeting. And so there's a lot of tea that gets drunk here, but but I very specifically do set it up, connect to the herbs. Where do I want to go with this conversation or this project or this meeting? And then I lay it out, and being able to sit with that frequency is so powerful.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes there is, while I'm making the tea, humming going on. Like I've almost connected into the frequency of what those herbs want to be. And by the time you get to the meeting, you're in a completely different place. You're excited for the final outcome of the meeting rather than the dread of the presentation, which
Mhm.
doesn't get you to the other side of where are you after the meeting? What did you
That's a huge piece of
experience?
self-care right there,
Mm-hmm.
and a beautiful gift that you're giving yourself by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. This is I know we've dove into a lot of different areas. We've got people thinking differently. I'm thinking about the homework assignment that you gave us, which is the earplugs and playing a drum or playing an instrument. And I'm really thinking about the feet. how much information the feet could be providing us if we weren't stuck in a shoe that was constricting it, slowing down its ability to hear for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so I look forward to, if you listen through the podcast and you can leave us a comment, it would be really interesting for you to come back and share with us some of your insights and how
Mm-hmm.
has sound made a difference now that you're aware, and what body parts might have been signaling you before but you weren't listening.
Mm-hmm. And the
Yeah.
feet, just to add to that, barefoot is such a wonderful thing to do, especially out in the grass where you can really ground
Mm-hmm.
yourself because you're connecting with the earth's frequency at that point. And so you're giving your body a whole other experience by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, working with the feet, being more aware of it, of they are our support and how we move around in the world. So just bringing attention to the body, to all of our physical senses is such a gift because then we bring more awareness to life. We live in a more holistic manner, and therefore we can engage with life more fully.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. All right. Is there anything we missed around this topic? Did we get it all in?
Well, there's lots more we could talk about, but I know we have some other podcasts coming up, so there's lots more to share.
Okay, perfect. So as you think about how your voice, the frequencies that are around you, the places that you've positioned yourself to live every day, just to see how that space is for you, and is it nourishing you the way you want it to? Can you make a change? Can you adjust your behavior patterns? Can you add the sound into it? Can you change the sounds around you? And as you're moving from this podcast to the next episode, please take the time to really explore what sound means to you, so that as we begin to stack the next healing session onto the next healing session, you actually going to transform more, because your intention of where you want to be at the end of this trilogy is going to be very different from where you started. And
Mm-hmm.
it's the time you take with it that's going to reap the greatest rewards. Well, I've never said that before, Anne-Marie. That is really interesting. Usually we're just stacking information, but in this case, it's like, no, we really want to transform and be different, and let's get that self-care empowered. Let's do it. So not
Absolutely.
effort.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So explore your voice as a way to provide yourself with some medicine. Consider how you might be able to change the role that you play for other people and the sound around them. And maybe you can be more observant of the sounds you're creating for other people, just with the activities that you're involved in, and how you might be able to change that or enhance it if it's supportive. And as we move forward, think about what tea you want to bring to the conversation as you listen to the next episode. And Anne-Marie, thank you so much for getting us started. It's going to be a lovely trilogy.
It's been a pleasure, Michelle, speaking with you. And I encourage, again, all of those who are listening to really allow themselves to allow their awareness to grow, to be aware of your sound environment, to be present with yourself more holistically through your day. So all those wonderful things that Michelle said, bring them into your practice. See what happens when you start exploring more deeply for yourself. And I
Mm-hmm.
wish you all the best with it.
All right, until the next episode, be well, everyone. Sip on your tea. And if you want to check out Anne-Marie's YouTube channel, I do want to make this point so they can find you. So the YouTube channel is Ann-Marie Boudreau 8570. And there you're going to find some amazing sound clips that you'll be able to explore. And I took a dive through it the other day, and I came out, many minutes later, because I had so much fun. So
Wonderful. Thank
awesome.
you, Michelle. Thank
All
you so
right.
much for having me on your show.
Take care, everyone.
Bye bye.